Greetings and salutations, young true believers. So today I want to talk to you about two articles. I want to talk to you about not Flo Leibowitz, Mary Devereaux. Mary Devereaux's Beauty and Evil, the case of Leni Riefenstahl, and Jenefer Robinson's How to Experience Architecture. So let's start first with the Devereaux piece on Riefenstahl. So Leni Riefenstahl was a German director. She was working. She began her career in the late 20s, and she was revolutionary. Right? She's just a brilliant film producer. You know, at a time when obviously motion pictures were in their infancy, right? And a lot of what we kind of take for granted in motion pictures these days, you know, overhead shots, aerial shots. You know, shooting a scene from a moving car, right? These are all techniques that she developed, right? Now, obviously, working in, she began her career in the late 20s in Germany. Well, we know what was happening, what was beginning to build in the late 20s and in the early 30s in Germany. And when the Nazis came to power, one of the things that Hitler wanted to do was to incorporate all these German artists and especially film producers and directors, because Hitler knew the value of film for propaganda. He saw it as just a revolutionary way to do this, right? And so he recruited Riefenstahl. He also recruited. He tried to recruit. Let me say that he tried to recruit Fritz Lang, who made the 1927 silent German film Metropolis. If you've never seen that, it's a great film, right? So he tried to recruit Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang fled Germany, but Riefenstahl was gung ho. Yeah, sure, I'll make you propaganda movies, right? And so, Triumph of the Will, which is the film that Devereaux talks about in her article, right, wasn't even the first piece of propaganda that Leni Riefenstahl made for the Germans, right? She made other propaganda pieces, one of which was lost in a fire, I believe is what happened to it. So Hitler asked her to make another one, and that was Triumph of the Will. Now, what's the problem? Obviously, the obvious problem is you're making films for Nazis, right? But the question that Devereaux is concerned with, and it's a question that can be applied to other works as well. Can a work of art be considered beautiful if it is serving an evil purpose? And when you look at Riefenstahl's plot, or Riefenstahl's film Triumph of the Will, and if you can stomach it, there are clips on YouTube. Actually, I think the entire thing's on YouTube. But it's all designed to glamorize the Nazi state, and this is one of those rare cases where a director not only has the budget from coming from a studio, but this is the case she had the budget of the entire nation, so she could spend lavishly to do whatever she wanted for this film, right? And so you see these waves and waves of German SS. Now, it's important to note those were SS soldiers. They weren't the German army. There was still a lot of animosity at this point between the regular German army and the Nazi shock force, right? But Riefenstahl made sure to make everybody looks happy, everybody's smiling, everything's great in Hitler's Germany, right? Don't show any opposition, don't show any discontent, right? Just make everybody believe that things are magnificent, right? And strictly as a visual piece, it works. It's a beautifully shot film, right? Big budgets can do that for you, right? But can you get over the message and just view the film in and of itself as a work of art? And this is a debate that goes on not only in aesthetics, right, with respect to works of art, but there's a German philosopher, for those of you who are philosophy majors, you'll come upon his name again, Martin Heidegger. Heidegger was a member of the Nazi Party, and so one of the questions often asked in philosophy with respect to Heidegger's works is, can you separate the man's work from his politics? And if you want the opinion of this philosopher, I think Heidegger's writing feeds directly into fascism, in my view. It's a fascist viewpoint is the inevitable outcome of thinking like Martin Heidegger does. That's just me. That's controversial, but now you know where I stand. All right. So next piece I want to talk to you about today, Jenefer Robinson, How to Experience Architecture. So Jenefer Robinson is a contemporary American philosopher, and I've got a excerpt of an interview with her that I posted in module, I believe it's 3, for you to check out. Robinson is reacting in opposition to Le Corbusier, the French architect who famously rejected all forms of ornamentation in buildings. Right? He hated Baroque. He hated neoclassical. Right? He wanted. He looked to America. Right? He really liked the grain silos and the grain elevators of the farmland, and how, you know, free of ornamentation they were, right? And if Le Corbusier was around today and he was walking down any, average American city and saw that, most of our skyscrapers, most of the ones that go up today, certainly in downtown San Jose, what are they? Big glass rectangles, right? There's no ornamentation. There's certainly no Art Deco style, which is my favorite architectural style, right? All that was just frivolous, right? A building should be functional. Le Corbusier famously states, a building should be like a machine that people live in, right? Well, Robinson comes up with an intriguing idea, and this article isn't old. This is only 8 years old. It goes back to 2012. This is what happens when architects and philosophers of art, when they privilege the ocular, right? They privilege the visual, right? But Robinson asks, what's the point of having a building? Well, it's to live in it. So, in other words, if you're living in a building, surely you're going to experience it with more than just your visual sense, right? You're going to walk in, you're going to feel a sense of space. You're going to feel a sense of space, literally. You're going to smell it. Homes have a certain smell, especially new homes, like new cars have that new car smell. Before you start hanging paintings and putting furniture in, you'll notice that the house has a kind of a hollow sound, right? Eventually you get so familiar with the place that you live that you can navigate it fairly easily in the dark, right? All of these, in Robinson's view, should be appreciated. And this, on her view, somewhat ridiculous idea that architecture is somehow a compromised art form stems from the fact that we privilege visual sense, because as human beings that is our strongest sense, but we neglect the other senses that we have. If we take those into account, we start incorporating those into our appreciation of architecture, she argues, you're going to have a much more robust, a much more complete appreciation for a good building.